I caught my husband sliding a white tissue into the widow's palm and keeping his thumb there, stroking the inside of her wrist like he'd done it 100 times. His suit was the one I bought him for our anniversary, the dark wool that made him look respectable, and his wedding ring flashed every time he leaned closer to her ear. The chapel smelled like lilies and wet coats, and people's sobs bounced off the stone like a bad echo, but his voice stayed low and smooth, private. I didn't say his name. I didn't move at first. I just watched his hand stay on her skin a beat too long, watched her fingers curl around his like she needed him more than she needed the dead man in the casket 10 feet away. If I made a scene here, in front of all these grieving strangers, I'd be the monster forever. If I didn't, whatever was happening between them would keep happening, only now it would be wrapped in sympathy and sanctioned by tragedy. He finally looked up, scanning the pews like he was searching for me, and when our eyes met, his face did this quick, practiced shift. Concern. Husband. The man who came to support. He mouthed, "You okay?" Like I was the fragile one. I gave him the smallest nod and slid into the back row, letting the black veil I'd borrowed from my aunt hide most of my expression. The pastor began speaking about devotion, about love enduring past death, and I could barely hear him over the blood in my ears. My husband turned back to the widow. She was young, too young to be a widow, too pretty to be left alone in a room full of pity. Her mascara had run in neat little tracks down her cheeks, like she'd cried in front of a mirror and approved the effect. When she leaned into my husband's shoulder, her perfume cut through the lilies, something warm and expensive, the exact kind of scent he used to compliment on women in movies. His hand settled at the small of her back. It wasn't a friendly touch. It wasn't the "I'm here for you" pat you give someone you barely know. His fingers spread, confident, like he belonged there. I forced my gaze forward, to the casket, to the photo of the dead man smiling beside her. The dead man, Ethan, had been my husband's coworker. That's what I'd been told. A good guy. A family man. Gone too soon. My husband had said it at breakfast, solemn, eyes down, like he felt the weight of it. Now he looked like he'd been waiting for this moment. The pastor asked everyone to stand for a hymn, and the pew creaked as people rose. I stood too, but I didn't sing. I watched. My husband leaned in again, close enough that his lips brushed her hair, and she tilted her head like she wanted more. She lifted her face to him, eyes glossy, and his jaw tightened, like he was fighting something. Then he slipped his phone from his pocket, shielded it with his body, and tapped the screen with the kind of focus he used when he was lying to me, too careful, too controlled. The widow glanced down at his hand. Her mouth twitched like she'd just read the punchline to a private joke. The hymn ended, and people sat. I sat, too, letting my knees press into the wood, grounding myself in pain so I wouldn't float off into something worse. The pastor continued, voice steady, and my husband finally withdrew his hand from her back. But he didn't pull away completely. Their shoulders stayed touching. When the service ended, there was that awkward shuffle as people filed forward, whispering condolences, offering hugs that lasted a second too long because they didn't know what else to do. I waited in the back until my husband moved. He escorted the widow toward the side door, guiding her with his hand, again, like he was taking her somewhere he'd already planned. His posture was protective, almost possessive, and when someone tried to speak to her, he angled his body to block them, answering for her with a soft smile. My stomach turned hard. I stood and followed at a distance, letting the crowd swallow me. Outside, the sky was the color of dirty cotton, and the wind tugged at coats and veils. People gathered around the hearse and the line of cars. A few men smoked near the edge of the lot like they couldn't handle grief sober. My husband steered her toward a black sedan I didn't recognize. Not our car. He opened the passenger door for her. My throat tightened so fast it felt like a hand around it. He didn't even glance around to see if anyone noticed. He didn't need to. Everyone here thought he was a hero, Ethan's friend, taking care of the poor widow. She slid into the seat like she belonged there. Before he closed the door, her hand caught his wrist. Not pleading, not grateful, claiming. He bent down, face close to hers, and I couldn't hear what he said, but I saw her smile, small, secret, like she already knew how this would end. He shut the door and turned away, straight toward me. I didn't have time to step back. He crossed the space with that calm stride he used when he was trying to keep things from escalating. His eyes flicked to my veil, my face, my hands, like he was checking for weapons. "Hey," he said softly, reaching for my elbow. "You shouldn't be out here alone." His touch on me felt wrong, like an afterthought. "I'm not alone," I said, my voice steady in a way I didn't feel. I nodded at the sedan. "You seem busy." His expression didn't crack, but something in his eyes tightened. Annoyance, maybe. Or fear. "She needs help," he said. She's she's falling apart. The widow, behind the closed window, lifted her hand and wiped at her cheek. Then she looked straight at me, even though there was no reason she should know who I was. Her gaze didn't slide away. It held, like she'd been waiting to see me. My husband stepped slightly in front of my line of sight, blocking her like he thought he could edit reality with his body. I'm going to drive her to the reception hall. People are gathering there. Food, coffee, all that. It's part of it. Since when do you drive other women around? The words came out before I could stop them. His lips pressed into a thin line. He lowered his voice. Not here. Don't do this here. That wasn't denial. That wasn't even surprise. That was damage control. I stared at him, at the familiar crease between his brows, the one that usually meant I'd asked for something inconvenient. For a second I saw our kitchen, our mornings, his phone face down on the counter, his quick little smile when he said he was swamped at work. Work. Ethan. The widow. My husband's hand tightened on my elbow, just enough to remind me who was stronger. Please, he murmured. Let me do the right thing. The right thing. I almost laughed, but it would have come out jagged. Instead, I lifted my eyes over his shoulder again, to the sedan. The widow had rolled the window down an inch. Just enough. Her voice slid out, soft as smoke. He said you'd come. My husband froze like she'd slapped him. I felt the world narrow to that single sentence, that single betrayal wrapped in casual certainty. I looked at my husband's face, waiting for him to explain, waiting for him to pretend, waiting for him to do anything that didn't make my heart drop into my shoes. He didn't. His eyes flicked to the widow, then back to me, and in that brief switch I saw it, something he couldn't hide fast enough. Recognition. History. A panic that didn't belong at a funeral unless you'd brought your sins with you. The widow's smile widened in the crack of the window. I'm sorry, she added, like she was enjoying every syllable. You deserve to know. My husband's grip on my elbow turned into a warning, and in his other hand, half hidden against his thigh, his phone lit up again, one new message, screen angled so I couldn't read it. But I saw the name at the top, a woman's name I didn't recognize, and the little heart icon next to it. My husband killed the screen before I could blink, like the glow itself was evidence, and he smiled at me with that tight, we're fine face he used around waiters when the food was wrong. Get in the car, he whispered, still gripping my elbow. We'll talk after. The widow watched us like we were a show she'd paid for. Her fingers rested on the edge of the window gap, nails pale and perfect, and she didn't look like a woman who'd just buried her husband. She looked like a woman who'd just won something. I'm not getting in, I said, and the words came out flat. Not brave. Not shaky. Just final. His jaw clenched. You're making a scene. I'm standing, I said. You're the one driving her around. The widow's eyes flicked over my face, slow and deliberate, like she was memorizing me for later. He's been so kind, she said, voice sweet enough to rot teeth. I didn't know you'd come, honestly. My husband turned toward her too fast. Rachel. So that was her name. Rachel. It landed in my head like a key turning. Her smile didn't falter. What? I'm just saying it's awkward. My husband's shoulders rose and fell once, controlled. Please. Just wait. He looked back at me. I have to get her to the hall. Everyone's expecting the widow, I cut in. Not you as her chauffeur. He opened his mouth, and for a second I thought he'd finally say the thing I needed to hear. You're right. This is weird. I'll stop. Instead he said, she doesn't have anyone. Rachel's laugh was soft. That's not true. My stomach tightened. What did you mean, I said to her, when you said he told you I'd come? My husband's fingers dug into my elbow, hard enough that I felt the bone. His voice dropped lower. Not here. Rachel leaned forward, letting the cold air hit her face like she liked the sting. He said you don't like funerals, she said, eyes on mine. He said you'd probably stay home. But he also said, if you did come, you'd act calm. Like you're always calm. My mouth went dry, because that wasn't a random guess. That was someone repeating what he'd told her about me. My habits. My reactions. The way he'd studied me and translated me to another woman like I was a manual. You've met him before today, I said. My husband cut in fast, voice sharp. Stop talking. Rachel blinked slowly, like his tone amused her. Of course I've met him, she said. Who do you think helped me get through? Everything? Everything. The dead man's photo flashed in my mind. Ethan smiling. Ethan's arm around her waist. Ethan, who I'd never met, reduced to a name at my breakfast table. I stepped closer to the sedan, ignoring my husband's grip. How long? I asked her. How long have you known my husband? My husband jerked me back, his hand sliding from my elbow to my forearm, tighter, more possessive. You're not interrogating a grieving woman. Rachel's eyes snapped to his hand on me, and her smile sharpened. Don't, she said softly. Not to me, to him. He froze. That tiny command did more to him than my questions ever had. His grip loosened by a fraction, like he remembered where he was supposed to be gentle. I stared at the space between them, this invisible rope that tugged at him even while he stood next to me. You two have signals, I said. That's what this is. He swallowed. You're imagining. Rachel cut him off. He's not imagining anything, she said, and she looked at me like she was finally done pretending. You want the truth? Fine. Ask him what he was doing the night Ethan died. My lungs forgot how to work. My husband went pale so fast it looked like someone drained him. Rachel, he warned, voice thin. Ethan died recently. Suddenly, that's what everyone said. A tragic accident. A heart issue. A freak thing. My husband had come home late that night. He'd smelled like rain and metal and something sharp. He'd said there'd been an emergency at work. He'd showered immediately, scrubbing like he wanted to erase something. I believed him because believing him was easier than imagining my life breaking. What was he doing? I asked, and my voice finally cracked. Tell me. Rachel's fingers tapped the window frame, impatient. He was with me, she said. In the hospital parking lot. While they were trying to save my husband. My husband flinched at the word husband like it burned. The world tilted. You're saying, you called my husband? Not Ethan's family? Not his friends? You called him? Rachel's gaze slid to him, possessive again. He answered. My husband took a step toward the car, rage and panic fighting on his face. Shut up. Rachel didn't. He held me while I cried, she said, voice steady. He told me it was going to be okay. He told me he'd take care of me. Take care of me. Those were the words he used on me when I was sick. When my father was in surgery. When our rent jumped and I panicked. Hearing them in her mouth made my skin crawl. And did he? I asked, eyes locked on my husband now. Did you take care of her? His mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. His throat worked. He glanced around the lot, people milling, laughing softly at the edges of grief, unaware. Then he leaned in close to me, so close I could smell his breath, and hissed, not now. That was his answer. Rachel's phone buzzed in her lap. She glanced down, and I saw the screen light her face. A message. She smirked and tilted it, just slightly, like a magician letting you see the corner of a card. A string of texts. My husband's name saved with a heart. I couldn't read every word, but I saw enough. Miss you. Tonight? I can't breathe without you. My husband's words. The kind he hadn't sent me in months. My hands went cold. You're his, what? I whispered. Rachel's eyes softened, fake sad. I didn't know about you at first, she said, and the lie slid out too smoothly. He said you two were basically done. That you stayed for convenience. My husband's voice snapped. Stop twisting. I'm not twisting, she said. I'm repeating. I looked at him, waiting for him to deny it, to tell me she was crazy, to tell me he never said those things. He didn't deny. He just said my name like a plea. Please. I can explain. And that was when I realized the funeral wasn't the first time he'd touched her like he owned her. It was just the first time he'd done it where I could see. A gust of wind lifted my veil, exposing my face to the lot. Someone nearby glanced over, curious. My husband noticed, and his hand tightened again, not with comfort, with control. Get in our car, he said through his teeth. Now. Rachel's smile returned, satisfied. Go ahead, she said softly. Let him put you away. He's good at that. My husband's phone buzzed again, even though he'd killed the screen. He couldn't stop it. It kept vibrating against his palm like a heartbeat he couldn't hide. And Rachel's eyes flicked to his hand, hungry, like she knew exactly who was texting him, because she was. My husband didn't even pretend it wasn't her buzzing his phone. He just squeezed my wrist like pressure could erase messages. I yanked my arm free and walked toward our car, not because he told me to, but because I needed space where his whispers couldn't reach me and her eyes couldn't feed. He hurried beside me. Please don't do this, he said, like this was me ruining his day, not him dragging his affair to a funeral. The gravel crunched under my heels. Behind us, I felt Rachel watching, patient, like she knew he'd follow her eventually no matter what I did. He opened my door too fast, almost slamming it into me, then slid into the driver's seat and locked the doors with a click that sounded like a verdict. For 1 second we sat in silence, the car smelling faintly of his cologne and the stale gum he always chewed when he was lying. His phone lit up again in his hand. He turned it face down on his thigh. I reached for it. He caught my hand midair. No. I stared at him. So you'll grip me hard enough to bruise, but you won't let me see what you're hiding. He exhaled like I was exhausting. It's not what you think. I laughed once, sharp. You always say that when it's exactly what I think. He leaned forward, elbows on the steering wheel, eyes fixed on the windshield like there was something out there worth looking at. Ethan was my friend, he said. I was trying to help her. You called her Rachel, I said. Not Ethan's wife. Not the widow. Rachel. Like you've said it 1,000 times. His mouth tightened. I know her. How? He hesitated just long enough to hang himself. Through Ethan. I nodded slowly, like I accepted it, and then I asked, then why did she say you were with her when he died? His throat bobbed. Because she was hysterical and she latched onto the first person who answered. Not his mother. My voice stayed level. Not his brother. Not his best friend. You. He snapped, finally looking at me. I was there because Ethan asked me to be there. The words landed wrong. Too rehearsed. Asked you? I repeated. Before he died. He blinked, and the tiniest panic slipped through. He recovered fast, but I'd seen it. Ethan knew something, I said quietly. Didn't he? He stared at me, jaw tight, and I realized he wasn't just worried about our marriage. He was worried about a story he'd been telling that might crumble if I pulled the right thread. Outside, a few cars started to pull out of the lot, heading to the reception hall. The funeral was moving forward without us, like grief had a schedule and betrayal didn't matter. I put my hand on the door handle. Unlock it. He didn't. Unlock it, I repeated. You're not going back there, he said. You're not talking to her again. I looked at him. Why? Afraid she'll tell me something you can't control? He grabbed my chin, not hard, but firm, forcing my face toward his. The intimacy of the gesture made my skin crawl. Listen to me, he said, voice low. Rachel is unstable. She's grieving. She's looking for someone to blame, someone to cling to. She will say anything. Then let me see your texts, I said. His hand dropped like I'd slapped him. Delete them already? I asked. He flinched. No. Then show me. He shook his head, slow. I can't. There it was. A clean, ugly confession without words. I stared at him until my eyes burned. So I'm supposed to believe your story, but I'm not allowed to see evidence. His phone buzzed again, and this time he couldn't stop his eyes from flicking down. His thumb hovered like an addict's. I snatched it. He lunged, but I twisted away, pressing my back into the door. The screen was unlocked. He'd been reading her messages and pretending he wasn't. Rachel's name with the heart. A thread of texts that didn't start today. It started weeks ago. Months. I can't wait to see you after. He's suspicious. Be careful. You looked so good last night. I'm still thinking about your mouth. Don't wear your ring. If she ever finds out, I'll handle it. My stomach dropped on that last one. I'll handle it. The message wasn't from Rachel. It was from him. I scrolled, fingers numb, and saw photos, nothing explicit, but enough. Her legs in a car seat. Her bare shoulder with his hand on it. A hotel keycard on a bedspread, his watch visible in the corner like a signature. My throat made a sound I didn't recognize. He grabbed for the phone. Give it back. I kept scrolling because I needed the bottom, the thing they were hiding in the middle of all the flirting and planning. And then I saw a message from Rachel dated the night Ethan died. He's gone. I'm alone. Please don't leave me. And my husband's reply, time-stamped minutes later. I'm outside. Come to the car. Don't let them see you with me. I felt my blood go cold. You told her to hide, I whispered. He looked at the screen in my hand and went still. The lies didn't work when they were written down. She was panicking, he said, voice rough. I didn't want people to misunderstand. I stared at him. Misunderstand what? The grieving widow climbing into your car in the hospital parking lot? That's exactly what it is. His eyes flashed. You're twisting it. I read another message, lower in the thread, sent 2 days later. From my husband, Ethan suspected. He asked to see my phone. I think he knew. My chest tightened so hard I thought I'd vomit. You wrote that, I said, barely audible. You knew Ethan suspected you. My husband's face changed. Not guilt. Not shame. Fear. He's dead, he said quickly, like that solved it. I looked up at him, and the way he said it, so blunt, so final, made the air in the car feel thin. He suspected you, I repeated. And now he's dead. And you're here, holding his widow's hand like you're the one she lost. My husband reached for me again, slower this time, like he was approaching a frightened animal. You need to calm down. I laughed, and it sounded wrong in the closed car. Don't tell me to calm down when your mistress just told me you were there the night her husband died. He slammed his palm against the steering wheel. She's not my mistress. I held the phone up between us, the messages glowing like a wound. Then what do you call, don't wear your ring? His breathing went heavy. He stared at the screen, then at me, and his voice dropped into something colder. You don't understand what Ethan was like, he said. You didn't know him. A chill ran up my spine. What was he like? My husband didn't answer right away. His eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. And in the mirror, I saw it, Rachel's black sedan pulling out of the lot, slow, deliberate, like she'd been waiting nearby. Like she'd been listening. Like she knew exactly when to leave so we'd follow. My husband's phone buzzed again in my hand. A new message popped up across the top. From Rachel. If you tell her the whole story, I'll tell her why Ethan really died. The message sat on the screen like a loaded gun. If you tell her the whole story, I'll tell her why Ethan really died. My husband's eyes locked on it, and the color drained from his face in a way no acting could fake. You're scared of her, I said. He snatched the phone from my hand so fast my fingers stung, then jammed it into his pocket like hiding it could bury the words. She's bluffing. Then tell me, I said. Tell me the whole story. He stared through the windshield at Rachel's sedan crawling toward the exit, and his voice came out thin. Not here. Not anywhere, I snapped. You've had months to tell me anything real. He turned the key, engine coughing to life. We're going home. The sedan paused at the edge of the lot as if Rachel felt us move. Then it rolled forward again, slow, leading. My husband followed. I should have opened the door and walked away, but my body stayed seated like it had forgotten how to flee. The car drifted after her like we were being pulled by a hook in the gut. You're following her, I said. We're not, he lied, and his hands were too tight on the wheel. Rachel didn't go toward the reception hall. She went the opposite direction, down a narrow road behind the chapel where the trees pressed in close and the snow along the shoulders had turned gray with slush. My husband kept a careful distance, like he'd done this before. I watched his knuckles whiten. How many times have you driven behind her like this? He didn't answer. The sedan turned into a small service lot beside a community building, brick, plain, mostly empty. No mourners. No coffee. Just a dead quiet that made my teeth ache. Rachel parked near the back, away from the street lights. My husband pulled in 2 spaces away and killed the engine. Silence hit hard. No, I said immediately. I'm not doing some private meeting with your widow. He swallowed. She's going to cause a scene at the hall if we don't handle this. Handle. Always that word. Like he could manage people the way he managed me. I went for the door. His hand shot out and locked it again. Listen, he said, too calm. If she says something crazy in front of everyone, it'll ruin everything. What's everything? I hissed. Your reputation? Your job? Or the story you told police when Ethan died? His eyes snapped to mine. Don't say that. So that was it. The real stake. Not my marriage, not my heart. The fact that there had been police at all. A knock hit my window. Rachel stood there in her black coat like a shadow that had learned to smile. Her hair was pinned up neatly, her makeup fixed, grief performed perfectly, but her eyes were bright. My husband rolled the window down a crack, just like she had earlier, like their whole relationship existed in slivers. What are you doing? He muttered. Rachel's gaze slid past him to me. Making sure she hears it from me, she said. Because you won't. I shoved the lock up and swung my door open before my husband could stop me. Cold air slapped my face. I got out and stood between both cars, my heels sinking into slush. Rachel stepped back half a pace, like she was giving me space, but her smile didn't change. Hi, she said. I'm sorry you found out like this. I almost laughed. Like this. At your husband's funeral. Her lashes lowered. Ethan was complicated. My husband got out too, circling toward us fast. Rachel, stop. She held up one finger, and my husband actually stopped. Like her gesture had weight. That did something ugly to my stomach. Rachel looked at me again. You want to know why he was with me that night? Why I called him? It wasn't just comfort. My throat tightened. Then what? Rachel's mouth softened, like she was about to confess something tragic. Ethan found out, she said. Not just about me and him. About everything. My husband barked, don't. Rachel ignored him. Ethan told me he was going to report it, she said, eyes fixed on mine. At work. The missing inventory. The little mistakes your husband kept making. My lungs seized. Missing inventory? My husband's face went hard. She's lying. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Rachel's smile widened by a millimeter. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Ethan saw the numbers. He confronted him. Her eyes flicked to my husband. Didn't you? My husband stepped closer to her, voice low and dangerous. You promised. Rachel tilted her head. You promised too. I looked between them, dizzy. What happened that night? I demanded. Tell me. Rachel took a slow breath. Ethan called him to meet, she said. He said he had proof. He said he was done covering. Her gaze sharpened. He said he was going to the police. My husband's nostrils flared. Shut up. Rachel didn't flinch. So your husband went, she said to me, almost tender. And I went too, because he told me to. He said he needed me there to calm Ethan down. My mouth went dry. Where? Rachel's eyes flicked to the dark tree line behind the building. The warehouse lot, she said. Behind the loading docks. My husband grabbed her arm. Enough. Rachel yanked free, and her voice turned crisp. You put your hands on me again and I'll tell her the part you're most scared of. He went still. Rachel looked at me, and for the first time her smile vanished. Ethan didn't just have a heart issue, she said quietly. He fell. My skin prickled. Fell from what? Rachel swallowed, and her eyes finally looked like a widow's. From the loading platform, she said. Right after he and your husband started shouting. My husband's face was blank now, too controlled. Rachel stepped closer to me, close enough that I could smell her perfume again, warm and expensive, the scent he'd brought home on his coat. And your husband, she whispered, didn't call for help right away. Behind her, my husband's voice came out like ice. You're done. Rachel turned, still calm. Am I? Because I have the voicemail, remember? She looked back at me, slow. He called me after. And he said something he didn't think I'd ever repeat. My heart pounded in my ears. What did he say? Rachel's lips parted. And my husband moved like a switch flipped. He reached into his inner jacket pocket fast. Not for a phone. For something small and metallic that caught the gray light for half a second. My husband's hand came out of his jacket with a small metallic flash, and my body reacted before my brain did. I stepped between him and Rachel, palms up, like I could stop whatever was about to happen with skin and shock. It wasn't a gun. It was a key fob with a tiny folding blade snapped out, the kind he used to open boxes at home, the kind I'd seen on our kitchen counter like it meant nothing. Rachel didn't flinch. She just lifted her phone, already unlocked, already recording, like she'd rehearsed this moment in her head 100 times. Do it, she said quietly. Show her who you are. My husband froze, eyes flicking to my face, then to the phone lens. His thumb trembled on the blade like he was realizing how stupid it looked in daylight. Put it away, I said, and my voice didn't sound like mine. Right now. He swallowed and snapped the blade back with a click that felt too loud for the empty lot. But the damage was done. The threat had been real for half a second, and I'd seen him reach for steel instead of words. Rachel's smile returned, thin and sharp. Tell her, she said, or I play it. My husband took one step toward me, softer now, trying to pull me back into the role he preferred, quiet wife, manageable problem. She's blackmailing me, he said. She's twisting everything. Rachel laughed under her breath. He's still trying to script you. I looked at my husband. What did you say in the voicemail? His eyes flickered, panic, calculation, the quick math of a man deciding which lie loses the least. I said Ethan was down, he blurted. I said he fell. That's it. Rachel's thumb hovered over her screen. Wanna bet? My stomach clenched. Play it. My husband's head snapped toward me. No. That single word told me everything. Not please, not don't, not we can talk. Just no, like I didn't get a vote in the truth of my own life. Rachel hit play. His voice came out of her phone, low and rushed, the same voice that used to murmur goodnight to me. I didn't mean to, he said. He grabbed me, I shoved him off, and he went over. Rachel, listen to me, don't call anyone yet. Not yet. If they see I was there, I'm done. You hear me? You're done too. The recording ended. The cold after it was worse than the words. I stared at my husband like he'd become a stranger wearing his face. You didn't call for help, I said. He lunged toward Rachel's phone. Give me that. Rachel stepped back easily. Touch me and I email it, she said. To the police. To your boss. To her. My husband stopped, chest heaving. He looked at me, and the mask cracked just enough for something ugly to leak through, resentment, like I made him do this by seeing it. I panicked, he said. Ethan was going to ruin us. Us? I repeated. The word tasted rotten. You mean you. His eyes flashed. He was going to take everything. My job, my life. And I was just, what? I said, voice rising. Part of the life you didn't want taken? The wife you lied to while you told her not to wear your ring? He took a step toward me, hands out, pleading again. I never wanted this. Rachel's laugh was sharp. You wanted it. You just didn't want the consequences. I turned to her, shaking. And you, I said. You let him use your dead husband as a shield. You sat at his funeral and played victim while you fed off this. Rachel's smile flickered. For the first time, something raw showed. Ethan was going to expose him, she said, voice tight. He said he'd take me down with him for covering. I didn't know what to do. And your husband, she glanced at him, almost disgusted, he said he'd fix it. My husband snapped, I didn't kill him. You shoved him, I said, and my voice went quiet again, deadly calm. And then you told her not to call anyone. That's not an accident. That's a choice. He opened his mouth, and I saw him searching for the right angle, cry, rage, charm, anything that still worked on me. It didn't. I pulled my phone from my coat with fingers that didn't feel real and dialed emergency services before I could lose courage. My husband's eyes went wide. What are you doing? He hissed. Ending this, I said, and I lifted the phone so he could hear the operator answer. Rachel's chin lifted, like she'd been waiting for someone else to pull the trigger she didn't have the nerve to. My husband stepped toward me, then stopped when he realized there were no moves left that didn't make him look exactly like the man in that voicemail. When the operator asked my location, I gave it. When she asked what happened, I said, I have a recording about the night Ethan died. My husband's shoulders sagged, not in guilt, in defeat. The last thing I saw before the first siren bled into the distance was his wedding ring catching the weak winter light as he wiped his mouth with the same hand he'd used to comfort her. Consequence, by the time the police car turned into the lot, he wasn't my husband anymore, just a man standing in slush, staring at his own hands. And when they led him away, Rachel's black veil slipped off her hair and landed in the dirty snow like a dead bird.